What's good, guys? Fancy Joe here, back with some fantasy football content. Bring you another mock draft Monday. Today we are drafting from the 103. Typical roster: two running back, two wide receiver, one flex. Let's hop right into it. If you guys are new to the channel, please hit that like button down below. It really helps out the videos. Hit that subscribe button to stick around for more videos. And as always, leave your questions or comments in the comment section down below, and I will respond. All right, let's hop right into this. So we got the 103. Wow. So Travis Kelce went at the 102 in this mock software. I'm going to take Dalvin Cook. Really not a whole lot of concerns about him at over 300 carries last year in 14 games. Is involved in the passing game. They drafted Christian Darrisaw this year in the first round. I really like Dalvin Cook this year. Think he is the focal point of that offense for sure, and a stud I can snag with that number 2 overall pick. Let's see who is going to be available to us next. Okay, so after Dalvin Cook, it went Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, A.J. Brown with the first pick in the second round, followed by Ezekiel Elliott, Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins, Najee Harris, and Austin Eckler. So as far as wide receivers left, we've got Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson. Not really interested in any of them in the second round. But running backs, we got Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I am going to take Cam Akers. I think he's going to get a big workload this year with the Rams. Excited I could get him in this late. I like him in a late second round pick. We saw how successful Todd Gurley has been in fantasy there last year. They kind of spaced it out until he was ready. Cam Akers, that being to take over that lead role, and he took it over towards the end of the year and absolutely dominated. I expect him to maintain that role moving forward and be utilized in the passing game. He's a second round draft pick, and I believe he was that first pick in their draft because they always trade their first round picks for veterans. So I'm going to take him here and have a Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers 1-2 punch to start off my draft. So then right after that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire went, Michael Thomas was drafted, Josh Jacobs, and Allen Robinson. Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting drafted was kind of a bummer. But I'm going to take Antonio Gibson here. The only other player I considered kind of was Julio a little bit, but I still think I'd rather have Antonio Gibson than Julio. And I think when you're at an opportunity to 102 and so many good running backs have fallen to me, that could have been a Clyde Edwards-Helaire potentially as well. That could have gotten to me. So I'm going to take Gibson. And I'm going to get that flex spot, get 3 stud running backs to start my draft, and we'll see how this team turns out. Okay, let's see who's still available. Some good running backs are still on the board. At tight end, T.J. Hockenson is still available there. Mark Andrews is there. I do think Amari Cooper's going to have a big bounce back season this year. Yeah, I'll take Amari Cooper. I think I'm buying in on really the entire Dallas offense. I think they're due for a big bounce back, and people just for some reason can't see it or don't want to see it. But all of them are being drafted, I think, too late. We saw Zeke go in the second round of this draft. I'm getting Amari Cooper late in the fourth ahead of guys like, let's see. You know what? A lot of good players have already been taken. Kyle Pitts was taken ahead of him, though. That's kind of crazy. I would take Amari Cooper ahead of Chris Godwin probably. Now that Antonio Brown is re-signed in Tampa Bay, I'll take Amari Cooper here. I think he's a good wide receiver 1. We'll see who I can snag in this next round. Deontay Johnson still available. We'd be a little bit more excited about him if Juju Smith-Schuster departed in free agency, but he returned to the Steelers. Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Tyler Lockett, Odell Beckham Jr. I do have some interest in snagging one of these tight ends. I don't want Mark Andrews this early in the 5th. T.J. Hockenson in the 5th is probably too early as well, but I'm really interested in either of them in the 6th round. I think T.J. Hockenson is just going to get a ton of targets this year, being basically the number 1 target on that team now. I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. I think he's going to have a big year with the addition of Matthew Stafford. I think that'll help him out a lot. I think the passing game volume will go up a tick. and I believe there'll be a much better team with Stafford. So I'll take Cooper Kupp here and get that Cooper Kupp combo for my 2 wide receiver spots after starting with 3 running backs. I feel that's a pretty good stable of wide receivers. That's the reason I do like taking running backs early, is because especially with the increase in passing volume across the league, a lot of these B tier receivers, or B tier receivers basically, there's a really kind of a amoeba group of a bunch of them that are all fairly similar to each other. And so I'm just going to snag a few of them and really snag these top elite running backs at the top of drafts, and then, snag Amari Cooper and Cooper Kupp in the 4th and 5th rounds, respectively. Like, when you can get talent that quality at the wide receiver position still available at that point, that's why I really like doing this draft strategy. Okay, so a lot of the tight ends have been taken. Jamar Chase just went off the board as well. I would be interested in taking another wide receiver. If I was going to take another receiver out of this group, it would probably be Deebo Samuel. I really like him this year. I think he could have a big year for fantasy. Chase Claypool I'd consider a little bit. We're into the 6th round now. I'm actually going to take one more running back, though, because like I said, this is a somewhat amoeba group. I've got 4 picks on my next pick. There's a chance I could still snag Deebo, and if I don't, I could still probably get Chase Claypool or, a Brandon Cooks in Houston, who, with Will Fuller gone, sure, he probably won't have Deshaun Watson this upcoming season, but he's most likely the number 1 receiver on that team, and he's a talented receiver. I think he can do worse than that. But there's one guy I'm going to take right here, and that's Travis Etienne. I think he's just fallen a little bit too far. He's a first-round draft pick, going to be starting running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars eventually, if not immediately once he gets there. I think he's going to get a lot of passing volume because of Trevor Lawrence being there. So I'm going to take him as my first bench player in the 7th round, or in the 6th round, excuse me. And we'll see who I can still snag. So, Robbie Anderson, Jonnu Smith, King, and Drake and Justin Herbert went to the board. So we were able to play that game correctly. Now I'm going to take Deebo Samuel from the 49ers. And I really like the depth I've been able to build at the running back and wide receiver positions. This is how I usually end up doing a lot of my actual drafts, where I stack running backs and wide receivers before I even start really looking at that tight end and quarterback spot. Now, will I take a quarterback like a Lamar Jackson, a Kyler Murray, somebody that's a difference maker at the position if they fall to a certain point? Of course, and you've seen me do that in many mock drafts. Same thing with tight ends. If George Kittle or Darren Waller in the 3rd round, Travis Kelce in the 2nd round, I have no problem pulling the trigger on those guys. I just use them as wide receivers that can play a more valuable position than wide receivers can. So I think that's how we should value them. Let's take a look. Jalen Hurts is still available. He's an enticing quarterback if I was going to take one, just because of the rushing capabilities. But Matt Ryan is still here. Matthew Stafford. I really like both of those quarterbacks. Even Ryan Tannehill this year. He's lost some weapons, but I think that leads to him maybe taking off a little bit more with his legs, which could lead to more fantasy points potentially. It would have definitely been nice to see them add a few more weapons to the draft for Ryan Tannehill, but A.J. Brown was a huge winner of the draft because they didn't. Okay, so taking a look at this board right now, I think I might snag Jarvis Landry just for depth. He's been a very solid receiver the last several years, and starting my draft so running back heavy, I could use some more wide receiver depth actually, so I'm going to take him in that 8th round and secure some depth at that wide receiver position. I honestly don't know why Antonio Brown goes so far down in these drafts. Like, we saw what he did last year in a half a season. It's a little bit too early for me to take him at this point, but it really does surprise me. Leonard Fournette's an interesting pick at this point, too, because he could potentially be the starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Giovanni Bernard signing there, though, I think does hurt him. He was basically the 3rd down back last year, and I think Giovanni Bernard will take over that role this year. He just fits that skill set a lot more. You know what? I'll take Curtis Samuel here, too. I think he is a talented receiver. I don't love taking receivers that are going to their first year on a team unless I think they're super talented, but he's a gadget guy, so I think he'll get some creative touches drawn up for him. And the head coach, Ron Rivera, was there when he was drafted in Carolina, as well as Scott Turner, their offensive coordinator, Noah Turner's son, who was the offensive coordinator when they were in Carolina as well. So I'm going to take him here and believe that they'll get him involved at least a little bit. Antonio Brown was taken shortly after my pick, so maybe I should have taken Antonio Brown and not try to wait. But that's the point of doing these mocks. Now I know. Wow, Jalen Hurts is still available. I'm going to snag Phillip Lindsay here. I told you guys I just am betting on the talent in this situation. I think Phillip Lindsay is the most talented running back on that Houston roster, so I'm going to take him. Cole Beasley got taken right after in the 10th round. That was an absolute steal of a pick. I was considering him a little bit. But with going so many wide receivers, I wanted to take the running back there, get one more, high impact piece potentially, especially if Mark Ingram or David Johnson goes down and he's the starter. Could really get a lot more work than we think. And I'll take T.Y. Hilton here. I think T.Y., they just don't have many weapons in that offense. Let's see what he can do with Carson Wentz in his first year. So, yeah, now I'm probably going to start taking a look at some of these. I'd be fine with Tom Brady as my starting quarterback as well. I don't know why people are so, Brady adverse, but we saw what he did last year in that system, and then quarterbacks normally struggle immensely in that first year in that system. So I really do think he could just, hit the ground running in year 2 as most quarterbacks do and really just get a second-year boost. You know what? All that talking I'm doing, I'm going to take him here. There's other tight ends I really love. Not a whole lot of receivers or running backs left that I'm that. You know what? I'll take James White. Here's what we'll do. I'll take James White. If Brady gets me in the next round, I'll take him. If he doesn't, I'll start looking Matt Ryan's way. But I really, really don't understand this Tom Brady pushing him down. Sure, he doesn't have the rushing upside, but he threw 40 touchdowns last year and his Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Robert Gronkowski. I don't know, I call him Robert. Rob Gronkowski, and O.J. Howard returning from injury. So I think that he's being way too undervalued in drafts. I'll take James White because I think he'll get the pass involvement in New England, and I think that could increase, especially because I think Mac Jones probably starts the majority of games there. So I'll take him here, and we'll see if Brady can get to me in this next round. Brady was taken. I'm going to take Matt Ryan here. Lock in my quarterback. As I said, Matt Ryan's another one of those guys. I just believe in the weapons. He has Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and they just drafted Kyle Pitts. I think he is in a position to succeed, as well as new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. Sure, he's not in year 2, but I think a new system and a talented offensive coordinator and play caller in Arthur Smith is going to help them out a lot. So let's take a look at this tight end position. Logan Thomas is still available. I think he was one of the biggest losers of the draft just because so many we saw Curtis Samuel and Dyami Brown go to Washington. They really have gotten some quality receivers there since last year, so I don't see him getting that same target volume. I'm going to take Tyler Higbee here. I could be mistaken, but I believe Gerald Everett. Yeah, Gerald Everett's in Seattle now. He's only tight end remaining. Maybe a little bit of a post-hype sleeper. I just think, he'll get more of this target volume now that he's basically the lead dog there. We'll take him at that tight end spot. We've got 3 Rams on the roster. That's probably a little more than we would have wanted. But, Tyler Higbee's one of the last picks in the draft, so he doesn't work out. He'll be off the team fairly shortly. Giovanni Bernard's still available. As I said, I think he'll have that third down role in Tampa Bay. How, productive is that role is yet to be seen. I'm going to take Mecole Hardman here. I think that he could be, the guy this year in Kansas City potentially. Not the guy. Obviously, they have Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, but I think he could potentially be the number 2 receiver and third option on that team. So I'm going to take him here with my last pick, and then we'll go over this team real quick. Okay, so I've got Matt Ryan at quarterback, Dalvin Cook at my running back, Cam Akers, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, Antonio Gibson, Travis Etienne on my bench, Deebo Samuel, Jarvis Landry, Curtis Samuel, Phillip Lindsay, T.Y. Hilton, James White, and Mecole Hardman. This has to be absolutely one of my favorite teams I've drafted this year. Just feel really good about the talent, especially stacking so many running backs and receivers like I typically like to do in my actual drafts. Don't always do that in mock drafts because you like to see how the team turns out. You want to do mock drafts from different angles so you get that experience. So you can draft the best team and use the best strategy when your actual draft comes. You're prepared. But yeah, really like this team. If you made it to this point in the video, please hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button down below. Please, please, please subscribe. And any questions or comments, I will respond as always. Until next time, Peace out. This is Fantasy Joe. Thanks for watching.